Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the North Lincolnshire series, a district of 56 parishes in the north of Lincolnshire. Let's see which one we're visiting today. So from Melton Ross, the last one you saw in North Lincolnshire, a very small place, we're in a much smaller place now, and this one is the smallest one that North Lincolnshire has to offer. I believe this is the only one in the district that has a population of less than 100. Even so, it's still a nice circular walk and there's plenty still to see here. Welcome to Croxton. This North Lincolnshire episode is sponsored by Past Days, a family history blog by June Terrington. You'll find her link in the description. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Welcome to one of the places in England with the name of Croxton. This is the Lincolnshire version. The others are in Cheshire, Norfolk, Cambridgeshire, Leicestershire and Staffordshire. Croxton is, as I suspected at the time of filming, North Lincolnshire's only parish with a population of less than 100 people. It's also the only one that shares a parish council with a fellow North Lincolnshire parish. That, of course, is Kirmington, which is within easy walking distance. As you might expect with a place this small, there are no shops, but its rural nature means that once again I could go stall hunting. Here's some eggs for sale, £1 for half a dozen. Being so close to Kirmington, it does have some airport-related sights and sounds. Here, for example, is a sign for Humberside Airport, and there were aircraft overhead too. Historically, this has always been a rural farming settlement. It's never had any amenities of note, barring a church. There's no school, and children attend school in Kirmington. As well as being a little thin on the ground in terms of population, the parish is also tiny when it comes to area, covering just over 1,500 acres. Croxton was historically known as Croxton. All of the villages sharing that name were typically entered into the Domesday Book as Crochestone. The place name literally means farmstead in a nook, or of a man called Crocker. Now here's a bus stop, but there are no buses here. A quick Google revealed that this stop is pretty much for decoration these days. Croxton's nearest access point for a bus is in Kirmington. Out towards Kirmington, there's a railway bridge, and a low one at that, which carries the same railway line we spoke about last week in Melton Ross. Croxton has within its boundaries a deserted medieval settlement. It can be found just to the north of the railway line. It's on private farmland though, so let's head back. A quick hop over the low fence surrounding the churchyard takes us towards Croxton's centrepiece. This is a Grade 2 listed Anglican parish church dedicated to St John the Evangelist. So the ultimate irony about this church is that, you'll remember last week I thought Melton Ross might have been redundant. Well, Croxton's smaller than Melton Ross, but this is 100% definitely active. It's funny how it happens, isn't it? And it's a much grander church as well. Let's have a look at it in a bit more detail. The church, mainly Early English, was restored by James Fowler of Louth in 1876. It was originally built in the 13th century. The present building may be the second church built on this site. Despite Croxton only having 36 residents at the last census, it remains an active parish church. The proof for this can be found on a sign on the door stating it had to close during the pandemic. There's a monument in the churchyard to Joseph Wilson, who died between the First and Second Boer Wars. It's believed, though, not to be a war monument. Out onto the road again, we find an old water pump next up against this wall. Even the smallest of places needed a water supply. Behind the bench which accompanies the pump here in what I assume is a small garden is a stone. I can only surmise this is a millstone. I couldn't place what else it could be. And there's one fascinating piece of history I've yet to talk about. For that though, we'll be needing the car, right after we've stuck a card on Croxton's parish notice board. So Croxton, despite its size, still has a parish notice board, and it's here on the side of this barn. Now look, no drone zone. That's because we're very close to Humberside Airport, the former RAF Kirmington. Just going to plot one of these on the board. Is this one that opens? No, it's not. So I'll have to, oh, hang on a minute, it might be. Maybe if I do that. Oh, this is going to be a bit difficult with the GoPro. I think we've got it. There's a pin there as well. That's going to help. There we are. Right. We are on the board in Croxton. Brilliant. That's officially done. Now, I'm not quite finished with this episode because there is still one sort of major thing I haven't covered, and it's back towards Melton Ross. Now, the problem with this is I don't know whether I'll be able to park for it or whether I can drive to it or what. It's in a wood and it's the site of Yarborough camp. Let's see what happens. Okay, this is the bridleway in question, and over there is the wood in question, and Yarborough camp is in there somewhere. So here we go. I've just left the car on the road. It's not the safest place to park it, I have to admit, but I mean, there's nowhere else to park. I can't drive here, can't drive down here. It's a bridleway, it's illegal. So that's the best I can do, but I do want to see this. So we're going to walk up towards this wood and see what we can find. As recently as 1930, a large part of the parish was woodland. One area of woodland with a great view of Melton Ross quarries is of particular interest here, Camp Covert. This is the site of Yarborough Camp, which was a hill fort. Hill is right too, because it's a deceptively steep climb up here. It dates from the Iron Age, and it's one of very few such forts identified in the Wolds. The name Yarborough comes from the Old English word Yarborough, which means earthen fortification. The Anglo-Saxons used it to refer to existing earthworks. The Yarborough name is still used in places around Lincolnshire, and the camp was still used in 1536 as a mustering place for Lincolnshire risings. The fort is a well-preserved earthwork site with earthen ramparts and an infilled surrounding ditch. Finds here include some from the Roman period, suggesting it was reused or continued in use till at least the 4th century AD. Many of the coins found here showed markings pertaining to Emperor Linnaeus, who ruled into the early 4th century. The track it sits upon is the same one which I mentioned in the Kirmington episode, it being modified and improved by the Romans. It's known locally as the High Street. The site also overlooks the Romano-British settlement in Kirmington, and the camp is nearly square in plan, measuring 85 by 65 yards, with the surrounding ditch approximately 30 feet wide immediately around the outside. Okay, so I'm well aware this looks like just a clump of trees, but the site of Yarborough camp is down there, I think. From what I can tell from the maps and the GPS, which is all I've really got in these woods, it's there somewhere. You can't really see it, but that's where it is apparently. So yeah, I've done my best with that. I'm not about to go into the undergrowth any further than off this track because I have no idea what I'll be standing on. So yeah, that's where it is at least. And that's pretty much it for Croxton. I don't really have anything more to tell you about the place or anything within the parish boundaries. There's no picture bit today. So yeah, that's Croxton, the smallest one in North Lincolnshire, and it's time for me to move on to my next one once I found my way out of these woods. Shouldn't be too hard. To be fair, all I've got to do is follow this track back to the car, so it's not that difficult if you want to attempt it yourself. So yeah, there we go. This has been the parish of Croxton, and I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.